हे गाइस, वेलकम बैक टू द चैनल। तो आज हम लोग चैप्टर 4 शुरू करने वाले हैं। लेसन 4, द हिस्ट्री ऑफ टैक्सेस एंड द पावर ऑफ कॉरपोरेशंस। तो क्या हिस्ट्री है टैक्सेस की और क्या पावर है कॉरपोरेशंस का। लेसन नंबर 4, चैप्टर नंबर 4 में हम लोग पढ़ेंगे। शशांक भाई का मैसेज आता हुआ, 4 मेडल फॉर इंडियन आर्चरी वर्ल्ड कप, 2 गोल्ड 1 सिल्वर 1 ब्राउन्स। ख़त्म हो गया ये आर्चरी वर्ल्ड कप, क्या बात है। धन्यवाद फॉर द अपडेट मेरे प्यारे दोस्त शशांक भाई। धन्यवाद हमारे साथ लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग में जुड़ने के लिए। 2 लोग हमारे साथ जुड़ चुके हैं, दूसरा कौन है प्लीज़ अपना नाम बताइए। तो चैप्टर 4 था है द हिस्ट्री ऑफ टैक्सेस एंड द पावर ऑफ कॉरपोरेशंस। माय रिच डैड जस्ट प्लेड द गेम स्मार्ट एंड ही डिड इट थ्रू कॉरपोरेशंस, द बिगेस्ट सीक्रेट ऑफ द रिच। तो आज हम लोग एक बड़ा सीक्रेट देखेंगे। आज हुआ ख़त्म, क्या बात है, आज हुआ ख़त्म। आज ही मैं नाना नानी के साथ वापस आया हूँ दिल्ली, इस वजह से कल लाइव स्ट्रीम नहीं कर पाया, माफ़ी चाहूँगा। आई रिमेंबर इन स्कूल बीइंग टोल्ड द स्टोरी ऑफ रॉबिन हुड एंड हिज मेरी मैन। माई टीचर थॉट इट वॉज अ वंडरफुल स्टोरी of a romantic hero who robbed from the rich and gave to the poor. My rich dad did not see Robin Hood as a hero. मेरे जो रिच डैड हैं वो रॉबिन हुड को हीरो नहीं समझते। ही कॉल्ड रॉबिन हुड अ क्रूक। रॉबिन हुड को क्रूक कहते थे। रॉबिन हुड मे बी लॉन्ग गॉन but his followers live on. I often still hear people say, why don't the rich pay for it? Or the rich should pay more in taxes and give it to the poor. It is this Robin Hood fantasy, or taking from the rich to give to the poor, that has caused the most pain for the poor and the middle class. The reason the middle class is so heavily taxed is because of Robin Hood ideal. The reality is that the rich are not taxed. It's the middle class, especially the educated upper income middle class, who pays for the poor. Again, to understand fully how things happen, we need to look at the history of taxes. Although my highly educated dad was an expert on the history of education, my rich dad fashioned himself as an expert on the history of taxes. Rich man explained to Mike and me that originally in England and America there were no taxes. Occasionally there were temporary taxes levied in order to pay for wars. The king or the president would put the word out and ask everyone to chip in. Taxes were levied in Britain for the fight against Napoleon from 1799 to 1816, and in America to pay for the Civil War from 1861 to 1865. In 1874, England made income tax a permanent levy on its citizens. In 1913, an income tax became permanent in the United States with the adoption of the 16th Amendment to the US Constitution. At one time, Americans were anti-tax. It has been it had been the tax. जगन्नाथ यात्रा देखी थी अमन भाई आपने? इंडिया का बहुत बड़ा फेस्टिवल है ये। जगन्नाथ यात्रा नहीं, 0 लोग दिखा रहा है पर 2 लोग कहाँ। आज हुआ ख़त्म। मेरी लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग में बस एक ही दिखा रहा है, कोई एक ना एक हमारी लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग में आया है। आज थोड़ा जल्दी बंद कर देंगे लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग, ठीक है। एट वन टाइम अमेरिकन्स वर एंटी टैक्स. It had been the tax on the tea that led to the famous Tea Party in Boston Harbor, an incident that helped ignite the Revolutionary War. It took approximately 50 years in both England and United States to sell the idea of a regular income tax. तो देखो, रेगुलर इनकम टैक्स का यूनाइटेड स्टेट में एक आइडिया आया. What these historical dates fail to reveal is that both of these taxes were initially levied against only the rich. It was this point that rich dad wanted Mike and me to understand. He explained that the idea of taxes was made popular and accepted by the majority by telling the poor and the middle class that taxes were created only to punish the rich. This is how the masses voted for the law, and it became constitutionally legal. Although it was intended to punish the rich, in reality it wound up punishing the very people who voted for it, the poor and middle class. तो देखो, जो टैक्स हम लोगों ने बनाया था वो इसलिए बनाया था ताकि हम पनिश कर सके अमीर लोगों को, क्योंकि वो लोग टैक्स पे करेंगे, है ना कहीं से तो पैसा आएगा। बट कोई फ़ायदा नहीं हुआ। रिच तो अपना टैक्स भर नहीं रहे हैं, इधर का उधर करके वो अपना टैक्स दिखा रहे हैं कि वो भर रहे हैं, पर भरते नहीं हैं। फंसता कौन है? एक गरीब आदमी और एक मिडिल क्लास बंदा। Once government got a taste of money, its appetite grew, said rich dad. Your dad and I are exactly opposite. He's a government bureaucrat and I'm a capitalist. We get paid, and our success is measured on opposite behavior. He gets paid to spend money and hire people. The more he spends and the more people he hires, the larger his organization becomes. In the government, a large organization is a respected organization. On the other hand, within my organization, the fewer people I hire, the less money I spend. The more I respected by my investors. That's why I don't like government people. They have different objectives than people, business, most business people. As the government grow, more and more tax dollars are needed to support it. जितना आपकी गवर्नमेंट फैलती जाएगी उतना वो पैसा और टैक्स मांगती रहेगी. My educated dad sincerely believed that the government should help people. मेरे जो एजुकेटेड डैड है वो समझते थे कि गवर्नमेंट को मदद करनी चाहिए लोगों की. He loved John F. Kennedy and especially the idea of the Peace Corps. He loved the idea so much that both he and my mom worked for the Peace Corps, training volunteers to go to Malaysia, Thailand, and Philippines. He always tried for additional grants and budget increases so he could hire more people, both in his job with the educational department and in the Peace Corps. From the time I was about 10-year old, I was hear from my rich dad that government workers were a pack of lazy thieves. मैंने हमेशा से यही सोचा है कि मतलब जो गवर्नमेंट, मेरे पापा जो रिच डैड है वो हमेशा यही बोलते थे कि जो गवर्नमेंट वर्कर्स होते हैं वो लेजी थीव्स होते हैं. एंड फॉर माई पुअर डैड आई वुड हियर हाउ द रिच वर ग्रीडी क्रूक्स who should be made to pay more taxes. Both sides had valid points. बहुत लोगों के दोनों तरफ, अमीर का भी गरीब का, दोनों का पॉइंट वैलिड था. It was difficult to go to work for one of the biggest capitalists in the town and come home to a father who was a prominent. My rich dad did not see Robin Hood as a hero. He called Robin Hood a crook. Government leader, it was not easy to know which dad to believe. Yet, when you study the history of Texas, an interesting perspective emerges. As I said, the passage of Texas was only possible because the masses believed in the Robin Hood theory of economics. Take from the rich and give to everyone else. The problem was that the government appetite for money was so great that Texas soon needed to be lived on the middle class, and from there it kept trickling down. However, the rich saw the opportunity because they don't play by the same set of rules. The rich knew about the corporations, which became popular in the days of sailing ships. The rich created the corporations as a vehicle to limit their risk to assert of each voyage. The rich put their money into the corporation to finance the voyage. The corporations would then hire a crew to sail to the New World to look for treasure. If the ship was lost, the crew lost their lives, but the loss to the rich would be limited only to the money they invested for that particular voyage. The diagram that follows shows how the corporate structure sits outside your personal income statement and balance sheet. कॉरपोरेशन इनकम स्टेटमेंट, अब देखो इनकम आई, पर्सनल इनकम स्टेटमेंट में इनकम आई, ठीक है. पर्सनल बैलेंस शीट आपके एसेट से इनकम जनरेट हुई, कॉरपोरेशन इनकम स्टेटमेंट, ठीक है. और उससे आपने किया पर्सनल इनकम स्टेटमेंट, वो आपके पर्सनल इनकम स्टेटमेंट में आई, ठीक है. एक्सपेंस जो आप कर रहे हो वो कंपनी के नाम पे डाल दिया. It is the knowledge of legal corporate structure that really gives the rich a vast advantage over the poor and the middle class. Having two fathers teaching me, one a socialist and the other a capitalist, I quickly began to realize that the philosophy of the capitalist made more financial sense to me. It seems to me that the socialists ultimately penalized themselves due to their lack of financial education, no matter what take from the rich. Crown came up with. The rich always found a way to outsmart them. This is how the taxes were eventually laid on the middle class. The rich outsmarted the intellectuals solely because they understood the power of money, a subject not taught in school. How did the rich outsmart the intellectuals? Once the take from the rich kid, tax was passed, cash started flowing into government coffers. Initial people were happy, money was handed out to the government workers and the rich. It went to the government workers in the form of jobs and pensions, and it went to the rich via their factories receive गवर्नमेंट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स. ठीक है. अमीरों के पास क्या होता था कि उनकी फैक्ट्री गवर्नमेंट का कुछ प्रोजेक्ट करने में समर्थ है. द गवर्नमेंट रिसीव अ लार्ज पूल ऑफ मनी, बट द प्रॉब्लम वॉज फिजिकल मैनेजमेंट ऑफ दैट मनी. The government ideal is to avoid having excess money. If you fail to spend your allotted funds, you risk losing it in the next budget. You would certainly not be recognized for being efficient. Business people, on the other hand, are rewarded for having excess money and are applauded for efficacy. As this cycle of growing government spending continued, the demand of the money increased, and the tax the rich idea was adjusted to include lower income levels down to the very people who voted in, and poor and the middle class. True capitalists used their financial knowledge to simply find an escape. They headed back to the protection of corporations, but what many people who have never formed a corporation don't know is that a corporation is not a real thing. A corporation is merely a file folder with some legal documents in it, sitting in some attorney office and registered with the state government agency. It's not a big building or a factory or a group of people. A corporation is merely a legal document that creates a legal body without a soul. Using it, the wealth of the rich was once again protected. It was popular because the income tax rate of the corporation is less than the individual income tax rates. In addition, certain expenses could be paid by the corporations with pre-tax dollars. तो यहाँ पे क्या है, मेरे घर में रोज़ आईपीएल चलता है टीवी वाले रूम में, और मुझे गुस्सा आता है फुटबॉल छोड़ के सब. मैं तो कम ही जाता हूँ टीवी वाले रूम में, बट यार मैं चाहता हूँ मेरे घर से एटलीस्ट आईपीएल को सपोर्ट ना जाए, बट यहाँ अलग ही है. क्या करें भाई, क्या करें, मजबूरी है, आपको भी देखना पड़ता हो. बट कोई बात नहीं. थैंक्स अ लॉट फॉर जॉइनिंग द लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग. लव यू ऑल. जितने भी देख रहे थे, 4 लोग आए थे हमारे साथ. धन्यवाद ये लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग देखने के लिए. कल हम लोग कंप्लीट करेंगे चैप्टर. ठीक है, चैप्टर नंबर 4 पढ़ रहे हैं, फिर उसके बाद इसकी हिस्ट्री पढ़ेंगे. ठीक है. थैंक्स अ लॉट एवरीवन फॉर जॉइनिंग द लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग. बाय बाय, टेक केयर, हैव अ नाइस डे.